So, Dean, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Yeah. So, you've recently been appointed the CEO of the Sandhurst Golf Club and community. What's that journey been like to this current point?
Look, it's been fantastic. I've really enjoyed it. I'm at 105 days into the role. It's been certainly fast-paced, but exciting. I had a long connection to the club, going back right through to the early development of the open space. Previous work life was connected to project managing about 85% of the build. So there's a long, deep history for me with the club. And then have the opportunity to step into the role and at a really important time in the club's history, 20 years last year, and I guess having some sort of opportunity to influence what the next 20 years looks like is exciting, but also cognizant of the responsibility that goes with that opportunity.
Got it. And as someone who's lived in the estate personally since, at least for the last 16 years, what have been the changes you've seen from the founding of the club to the present day, and what do you think is kind of going to be your mark that you have on the club moving forward?
Look, I think that the key thing for me is, and this sort of resonated through to me at a recent committee meeting, and it was all about sort of some of the improvement plans that the key stakeholders are having input into, and a question was asked for everyone to write down what Sandhurst meant to them, and everybody put down connection and community, amongst other important factors from their own experience. So I think for me, while the bigger picture of capital expenditure planning and what we're delivering around capital improvements over time and their life cycle, I think creating an environment around the club that respects the heritage and the history of Sandhurst, but also bringing together the community at every touch point. A lot of the restructuring work that we've been doing with the management team over the last 3 to 4 months is an enabler to be able to deliver on those outcomes. So for me, it is about bringing the whole of the community together. It's a very broad and diverse demographic of residents that may not have an interest in golf, residents that have and are golf members, and then we have our golf members that aren't residents. I guess the key question is, how do we bring all of that together? And our commitment is to resident and member experience at every decision we make. I guess that's really what we're embedding into our DNA as a leadership team.
Yeah, got it. So I guess, as you're saying, the main concern as CEO is balancing the needs of both residents and golfers as well.
Yep.
So what are the big things over the next 5 years, so in the short term and also in the long term, that you're kind of seeing to be able to address those concerns?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the short term, the community, across that broad demographic would start to see some of the work that we're doing with the restructuring. We've integrated our hospitality events. We have a consultancy piece, an operational consultancy piece that's brought in an incredible skill and expertise to deliver some different offerings to our membership and residents. So we'll start to see, for example, some fine dining coming back in. We're bringing our community groups back into the club. There's been some examples where maybe that hasn't been enabled as well as it could, and we're certainly working very hard to bring all of that back into this environment. So in the short term, we've got skill and expertise coming into the management team that can deliver on all of the critical outcomes around the golf course environment and also the estate. So a new appointment recently in that space, brings a very tier one experience in both those environments and a very strong commercial understanding of what those sort of deliverables are. So we're making some really strong changes in that space. The longer term, is certainly embedding a culture of discipline in everything that we do that aligns to that member experience. Importantly, the long term is certainly about strong governance, strong connections, and then look, the longer piece in terms of capital investment back into the club, and we talk to that as profit for purpose and reinvesting and having a very really sort of disciplined approach again to asset management planning, the budgets that align to that planning, and we're making some very, very big inroads into repositioning that, but that's about setting ourselves up for the next 10 to 20 years. Yeah.
So currently, would you view Sandhurst as the best of its kind in Australia? And if not, what do you think are the steps to get there for Sandhurst, both in terms of comparison between places, similar communities nationally and also internationally?
Yeah, so I guess that links into our vision, and that is to be the best residential golf estate in the country. I think the key thing that anyone that lives here or works here, and my history of working here goes back 20 years, firmly believe that's how we should be viewed. So I think that the vision that we have is completely achievable. We just need to reset the business and go on that journey. And for us as a leadership team, it's about what can you do today to improve tomorrow and influence that direction of travel on that journey. A part of it is firstly restructuring the business. There's been some really key things that we've done around our governance framework, and the board in my short tenure have been outstanding in that space, and we've got some great initiatives that they're working on to continue to improve that governance piece. For us from there, it's really about the restructure, that discipline around operational excellence. And we talked this week at a strategic workshop that we did in collaboration with the board around 90% of the work that gets done people don't see, and having our own personal radar around what good looks like. And so we see that sort of everyone is responsible and accountable to that bigger vision and the journey that we're on. The team environment is also critical for us, and the functions are set up at cross-functional collaboration. The team environment, that we're connected as the community is connected, is really important. And then sort of really challenging, we do have a mix of internal staff and a contractor model. So we're spending a lot of time on looking at that outsourced component of our operation. So we're putting more of a commercial lens on that, and I guess what we're looking for in that space is transparency, partnership, being really clear on what we're expecting from that partnership. But we also have a role to play in that as well. So over the last few months, we've spent a lot of time, particularly in the golf course and the estate, combining two contracts into one, redefining all of the elements of service delivery that sits within that contract, and then having some very clear expectations around what that looks like in terms of the day-to-day operations, and putting a lot more rigour into monthly meetings, reporting. So there's nothing that hasn't been open for discussion, review, and reposition, and that aligns to that longer term sustainability piece that I guess is critical for the residents and the broader community.
Are there any communities that you see that you kind of would like to model Sandhurst after, or is it more about Sandhurst charting its own way and its own course in the space?
Yeah, look, I think that it's important. One of the things that I've been doing is meeting with some of the other CEOs and GMs of golf courses, but the reality is that Sandhurst is, and that's been amazing, and it's a great group of people that I've been able to sort of connect with, but there is no question that Sandhurst is unique. There's only a few residential and golf course communities in Australia like Sandhurst. So I think that we have a great opportunity to be the benchmark along the journey, and that's sort of the way that we're viewing that. So we see that we have the opportunity to set the standard. Particularly the outsourced contract environment in Tier 1 golf course space. It's more normally an in-house model. So that partnership moving forward needs to be able to sort of shift into that Tier 1 environment, bringing the skill and capability into the business to be able to have ownership of that, to be able to deliver on it is important, but we also need our partners to be able to be aware of where we're heading as well. So I think it is about us chartering our own course, and again, setting up the structure to be able to enable that, and strong leadership around it is key as a starting point.
So you discussed earlier that you've been involved in the club, or with the club rather, for the last 20 years, and that looked more like in the early stages that was more like project management. So if you could go into more detail about your origin with the club and how that all started.
Yeah. So it's interesting, the business that I came from, the founding owner of that business, or one of the two founding owners, put the first shovel in the ground into a paddock that became the Sandhurst estate. And so my background there does go back to that very early days. They built the first tee that the first ball was hit off, and then I came in to support the project management side of some of the projects. So that does run deep. That connection was in a project management in terms of construction side, but the business also had the maintenance contract here over a period of time. So right up until I left that business, I'd had a contractor lens, and then when the role came up, having the opportunity to jump over the other side of the fence has just been an absolute privilege to continue that career journey. I think the latter part of my time with that business in a commercial environment, running a big and very complex operation, elements of the contracts that we were running, televised events with the Melbourne Racing Club or Cricket Victoria, and all of the the community involvement, a very diverse stakeholder community, probably served me well to have that opportunity to sort of come into the Sandhurst environment. It is different, but I think having that time in that operating environment has certainly got application in this space. And I come from a horticulture and sports turf background, I guess, from a technical side of things. So there's a lot at play here in that environment that's really important to the community.
You've mentioned that the role of CEO is one that's done very much kind of behind the scenes, especially for something like a golf club. If you'd like to go into the day-to-day of what that job looks like for you and how you kind of move through the role.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that for me, the first 3 to 4 months is certainly coming in and restructuring the business. I've probably been in operations, day to day a lot more than I guess the CEO role would normally be. But that's been a great opportunity for me to learn a lot about the business, and particularly areas that I haven't had any sort of meaningful day-to-day experience in, hospitality and events being one of those. So, as we've now structured the business, we've brought in a manager of people and culture. A really important part of our business is to make sure that from a governance point of view, we have the equivalent of about 100 staff working in the business, so we've got all of our functions set up appropriately. So for me, it's about now supporting the management team deliver on those critical outcomes. We're putting a lot of rigour into, from a governance point of view, our reporting through to the board. So that's a really big piece for me to continue to work on. Then how we structure and support our management team, our key leaders, to deliver on our commitment. And we simplify that commitment to being members, people and communities. So for me, what's my role in sort of enabling that? It's just being very clear about a focus on member at every touch point, providing the opportunity within the structure and the framework of our operations to provide opportunity for our people to have the success that they deserve to have with everything that they're doing. So creating sort of a framework for learning and development and training, and creating career pathways for our people, and then all of that broader community piece that is touched by everything that we do. So the day-to-day is across every part, but it's as we sort of really embed this operating structure, it's for me to be less in operations, more to have that broader oversight, and we're certainly very well positioned now for that next 100 days. Yeah.
Just a personal question now about your handicap. Would you consider yourself a great golfer, or?
I'd say that I'm an average golfer, but very passionate. Look, I started my early career in the sandbelt golf courses. So golf generally runs deep in my veins, and that was a real privilege to work in that environment in an operational role. I played a bit of golf in my early days, but I was probably more thinking that I was going to be a cricketer. That didn't quite eventuate, but yeah. So I reconnected with golf a few years ago after not playing for a while, now sort of being a member of the golf club for the last three years. I now trying to balance working here and playing golf, but I'm absolutely passionate, and like most golfers, I've got my own personal commitment to reducing my handicap, but it seems to be taking a while to get there. And look, we got some of the best professional golfers within our golf team, and that was something that we talked about this week as well. So really, from my point of view, there's no excuses. I work with some of the best in the business, but look, I love getting out on the weekend and having a hit, and looking forward to continuing that as a member of Sandhurst.
What's the relationship between the PGA and Sandhurst overall?
Yeah, it's a really important question around partnerships. So we do coexist in the same building with the PGA. We do have a partnership, but we're looking to strengthen it. We're also looking to strengthen the partnership with Future Golf that are also based here at Sandhurst. And one of the connections that we're looking at with both those organisations is the importance of increasing women's membership and enabling that through some initiatives. Future Golf, for example, in a couple of weeks' time, we'll have a women's golf event here, and we're having some really good discussions around that partnership and how do we enable conversion rates from Future Golf membership to Sandhurst membership. Our women's club captain Donna's playing an important role in that in the future as well in a working group. So we're enabling some of those sort of partnerships to sort of come up to a higher level and think a little bit differently about not just being here and coexisting, but where's the opportunity. I know that the PGA are very interested in sort of talking more about how do we maximise that opportunity. So we're spending, in the coming months, we'll be spending time collectively together with the PGA and Future Golf to think about that. We also see the opportunity from our corporate golf initiatives to create a corporate community within the environment, certainly aligned to the golf space, but it's sort of where I came from, had the privilege of being, involved in some really, really fantastic initiatives around corporate communities. One particularly was with the Essendon Football Club, so we're looking to sort of seeing how we can sort of shape something a little bit differently here that enables some of those sort of corporate sponsorships to thrive and mutually beneficial.
Right. And we've talked a lot about kind of, I guess, the golf side of it, but in terms of residents, what are the big changes that you're looking to bring in to kind of improve the experience for people that live in the estate?
Yeah, and another critical question. I think that we have, within the residential estate, we've got 1,318 houses with about 80% of the residents not playing golf members. I think that that it's a really important touch point that we're serving the whole community, and so some of the work that we're doing with Frankston Council, looking at sort of over the next sort of 10 years, playground upgrades, so investing back into infrastructure. We've got a meeting with the council tomorrow, is an important one. One of the big pieces of work that we're doing is around our security contract and the investment in security. We're in a position at the moment where we do have some really positive things happening. We're not ready to communicate those just yet because it's not quite settled. But the reality is that technology has outpaced human behaviour, and we all know that and see that. So we have some solutions that we're working on that we believe will be transformational for the community in that security space, and hopefully over the next month to 2 months we'll be able to communicate what that looks like. So we're really in terms of again really tapping into that capital planning piece is how do we reinvest, create an operational structure that thrives, that is member focused, that does enable a really strong investment back into capital expenditure, what that planning looks like and how we prioritise that. We do have an initiative which I communicated to the community earlier this week around a slightly different approach to community survey. We're actually going to ask the community to come and do some independent workshops to inform the questions that we're going to ask around the survey. We'll then put the survey out. We'll have a community gathering to provide feedback on those outcomes from the survey and how we're going to align that to our future investments and some of the strategic initiatives that we have. I think a little bit of my background in sort of business psychology, talks to the fact that we've got this huge human sensor network out there and getting that narrative of the day-to-day experiences, understanding those, and then being able to take on that feedback and develop strategic plans that enable those important narratives to be heard and structured into planning, and what we execute is really critical moving forward.
Russ will talk about.
No, thank you. I think
Yeah.
it's been very, I really appreciate the opportunity to have a chat, and it's early into my tenure, but I'm looking forward to, it's been a fast-paced 100 or so days, and I'm looking forward to, the next phase of the restructure and opportunity here. Yeah. All right, thank you. Cheers.